What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to yet another episode of the Fight Maniac podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I really appreciate all of you that are out there watching. As always, if you want to support your boy, all you gotta do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you guys want to leave me a comment, I hope that all of you are having a fantastic day so far. Obviously, we are going to be breaking down what happened and what went down at UFC 311 this past Saturday night. Obviously, I'm going to talk about what's next for some of the fighters, the winners, and the losers as well. But first, starting with the main event, I wanted to touch a little bit on this Arman Tsarukyan situation. Obviously, if you don't know, the main event was supposed to be Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. Unfortunately, Arman had to drop out last minute, the day before, due to supposedly a back injury. I'll talk about that here in a second. But it really screwed things up. Luckily, the main card, the main fight was saved by Renato Moicano stepping up and facing Islam for the title. Kind of sucked for Beneil Dariush, who he was supposed to fight Renato in that same card. It sucks that he didn't get to fight because he was, on his hometown. He was going to get to, fight in front of his people. But it didn't happen. Luckily, he did say that the UFC still took care of him. So, that lets me know they at least maybe still paid him. Maybe not the full thing, maybe a portion. I don't know. But hey, getting paid and not fighting is probably best case scenario for a lot of these guys. But I know he probably wanted to fight in his hometown. So hopefully he gets to fight here in the next few months. That'll be awesome for him. So yeah, Renato stepped up. The weird thing here, okay, going back to Arman's supposedly injury, I don't mean to get conspiratorial or anything, but I will say there is something else going on with Arman that Dana White and the UFC are not telling us. The fact that Dana White came out and said, no, Arman is absolutely not next for the title, that should tell you there's something else going on that they don't want to tell us. Because if he gets injured, let's say he takes just a few months to nurse that injury, back to health, he could still be considered a number one contender fighter, right? Even after an injury. I mean, especially injuries they're not always the fighter's fault. So I don't know why Dana would say that. It would have been more realistic if he would come out and say, you know what, we're going to wait for doctors to tell us how long he's out for, how bad the injury is, and then we can reschedule him for, early summer, something along those lines, for Islam to make another, the rematch pretty much. But that didn't happen. No, Dana said, no, Arman is 100% not next for the title. That means they stripped him out of his number one contender position. That means he must have done something that Dana White or the UFC didn't like, which what that is, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Maybe, there's been some speculation that there was weight issues. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I cannot tell you. He also left his response extremely vague. He just said like a back issue. He didn't even say injury, or he didn't even say like specific. He just said something with his back. So, I mean, who knows, man? I was excited for that fight. But again, luckily Renato stepped in. So we can get into the fights now. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Let me know what you guys think in the bottom. If it really was just an injury, but then why would they almost, quote unquote, punish him, I guess. But yeah, I guess we'll have to just find out and see. But I think they're going to make him fight for another number one contender fight before they give him the belt title shot again. So yeah, sucks for him. For the main event, obviously we had Islam Makhachev versus Renato Moicano. And yeah, I mean, pretty, anticlimactic for a lot of people, but essentially it just went the way that a lot of people thought. Islam was a massive favorite for this fight, like a minus 1,200 or something like that. Renato, like by submission, it was like plus 2,000. Like it was insane. Of course, your boy. I had to put some money in that. I put $5 on that just because you never know. You never know. You never know. But yeah, I mean, the fight went pretty much as suspected. First round submission by Islam. I believe it was a Darce choke, if I'm not mistaken. Renato just unfortunately was not able to do anything against Islam. I mean, literally zero stats. I mean, it was kind of crazy. But I do think that it was just a matter of not being prepared for the right opponent at the last minute, and you're going against the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. Listen, it's great that you got a shot and that you took advantage of it. I really liked the way Moicano was kind of behaving leading up to the fight. He was in his press conference before in the weigh-ins. He was like, "I don't give a fuck," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, this guy's a gangster, bro." I like that from him. But unfortunately, it didn't go his way. So yeah, his first round submission for Islam. He came out clean. I mean, Islam could fight next week if he wanted to. Next month, he basically took no damage, absolutely no damage. Renato only had 9 significant strikes, but I mean, even Islam looking at the press conference after, he was flawless. Homie was untouched. I mean, literally no damage. So yeah, that was best case scenario for Islam. Got another title defense under his belt. Surpassing, making it, I think, the most title defenses at lightweight history. So shout out to him. And I mean, shout out to Renato, bro. Even though he lost, I'm sure the UFC and Dana took care of him financially in some way with a bonus or something. And I mean, you got to face the number one pound for pound guy. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean he's done. Obviously, he's still on his path to one day, going it the right way, fighting a number one contender fight and getting a little bit more experience. Because you got to realize he was still kind of on the come up, right? Even though he's up there in age, one thing that surprised me last week when I was doing the episode, I thought he was like a younger dude because he was going against Dariush, and I was like, oh, it's this older guy versus this young up-and-coming dude. And Renato is up-and-coming because he just now burst into the scene. But he's not young by any chance, bro. He's 35. So, I mean, that's kind of crazy. So, hopefully, he's able to continue to get a few more dubs in the division. And, hopefully he breaks into the top 5 because I think that's where he really belongs. If you look at his fighting style, I think he can definitely burst into the top 5. And who knows, maybe one day definitely get another title shot or at least the number one contender fight pretty soon. So, that's great. For Islam, it's tough because, the next name obviously would be Arman, right? But now that Dana confirmed that's not happening, he doesn't have a lot of options. I mean, he really doesn't have a ton of options. He has Charles Oliveira, and that's it. At the lightweight, that's it. He has nobody else at lightweight that is the true number one contender for Islam. So if that Charles Oliveira fight doesn't happen, his only choice is really, I think, to go up, fight Bilal for the title, or I don't think this is gonna happen, or they make him defend his title against Ilia Topuria, and Ilia Topuria goes up, challenges for the lightweight. Again, I don't think that's happening. I think the most safe thing to say is that Charles is gonna get a title shot next, especially because he also just defeated Michael Chandler. And yeah, Charles is clearly the number one contender fighter right now. Again, with Arman out of the picture, who knows? But I mean, it could be, who knows? Maybe Dana White changes their mind, and in a few months they give Arman the fight again. I don't think Islam is fighting anytime soon as well. He usually takes some time off between fights, at least 6 months. I'll tell you that right now, minimum 6 months before he even announces something. So we probably won't see Islam until later on the year, not even summer. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think Charles is the next best option. If you want to keep things in the lightweight division. Obviously, Islam being as dominant as he is, I think he could, if he tells Dana, if he really sits down, talks to the UFC and talks to Dana, and he says, yeah, I want to go up. I think they'll give him that for sure with how dominant he is, with the impressive wins that he's had recently. Even though he hasn't defended the title at lightweight that much. I mean, if you think about it, if we go to his record, as far as difference, as far as title differences at lightweight, he's only had Dustin Poirier and Renato Moicano, and that's it. Because if you think about it, his previous two were against Volkanovski, who was not a lightweight, right? By the time was a featherweight, moving up. So whether you want to count those or not, it's whatever. I mean, they count as wins, obviously, and obviously in the books, they count as him defending his lightweight title against the challenger, right? But it wasn't a true lightweight challenger. So a lot of people really don't count those. So if you want to look at it in the sense of like he only has two defenses right now, you could, and a lot of people say that's not enough for him to move up, and that's not enough for him to move up. Sorry. And change divisions right now. Maybe one or two more defenses at lightweight. And then, we can start talking about possibly moving up or down or whatever the fuck he wants to go. I think Islam, he mentioned this himself, but I think he could also move down. I mean, I don't know if he wants to cut the weight. It really doesn't make sense, but he could move down. I don't know. Because he said something like, I also want to be triple champ, because they talked about Alex and John Jones and stuff like that. And he said, I want to be triple champ. Whether he said he's going to go up two, that's, to me, it's a little more unrealistic than to say goes up one and then down one from lightweight. I mean, to me, that's more realistic. Whether or not he can cut the weight, that's different. But I mean, what would he rather? Cut more weight and suck down more than he usually does? Or go against bigger guys? I mean, if he goes up, we're talking big guys, bro. 2 divisions up, that's, fucking DDP territory. That's Israel Adesanya territory. I mean, those are big, tall dudes. And Islam, don't get me wrong, he's big. For the lightweight division, he's kind of big. I think if he goes up one to welterweight, that's what he would do best, in my opinion. But going to middleweight, that's kind of rough. I don't know if he can actually do that. Maybe once he's a little bit older and when he's had a little bit more fights and he puts on more weight naturally, maybe he could, but I don't know. That seems kind of crazy right now. But hey, going to featherweight, I think and he would have a clear size advantage against some of the featherweight guys, But again, whether he wants to make that cut, how many times he wants to make that cut, it's hard to tell, and I don't see it happening. So shout out to Islam. I do hope that, Charles is next. For me, Charles is one of my favorite fighters, and I know he lost the first fight, so, a rematch wouldn't be bad. So next up, we have Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. This was obviously fight of the night. It was a fantastic fight. I really, really enjoyed this fight. However, I called it wrong. I think I predicted Umar to win this fight, and boy, was I wrong. However, to my defense, last episode, I did say, how can you count Merab out? How can you ever bet against him? Because looking at his record, and this is the thing that I failed to see. I saw his record. I just didn't know he was going to be that much more experienced and have way better cardio than Umar. And that's exactly what happened. The experience showed. Look at Merab's record in his past 5 fights. I mean, he's had all previous champs, all dominant performances, big, huge names. And look at Umar's record. He really hasn't fought anybody other than Corey Sandhagen, right? So a lot of people will say, did he really deserve a title shot? I mean, the answer was yes, because as far as contenders, there was really nobody there. I mean, O'Malley, he just lost. Sterling moved up, and they're friends, so they wouldn't even fought. Sandhagen lost against Umar. So Umar was clearly, Chito had already fought O'Malley and lost. So Umar was clearly the next one here. But again, if you look at his record, he has no wins against like big names the way Merab has. So I think this just came down to experience and cardio. Skill-wise, I mean, they're pretty evenly matched. It was a fantastic fight. It was fight of the night for a reason. But yeah, I just came to experience and cardio. Mine, Merab, like I said last episode, Merab is like a dog with the bone. He is relentless. And the way he fights is amazing. Is he's in your face, he's pressure, 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 and he doesn't let you implement your game plan. I mean, he just is in your face the entire time. He leaves you no time to breathe. So that's how Merab, I think, ended up getting this dub. So shout out. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even though I predicted Umar, I'm a huge fan of Merab, man. I just thought, everybody, myself and everybody, the odd makers, Vegas, they all thought the same thing. Some guy with the last name Nurmagomedov in a buzz cut, obviously he's gonna win, right? And a fucking beard, obviously he's gonna win, right? Well, I guess Merab proved everybody wrong, and I'm happy, right? I'm happy that I'm happy that this Dagestanians got humbled a little bit, right? Because they win too much. Can we agree they win way too much? Okay, I mean, look at Islam, look at Khabib. All they do is win, win, win. So I'm happy that one of them, at least, got humbled a little bit. And they, not that they're not humble. Obviously they're super humble people. They don't wear anything flashy, jewelry, like none of that. They're super humble. They're super religious. They don't drink. They don't party. One thing that kind of being part of that camp, I'm going to step away a little bit from fighting here, but like being part of that camp, I don't know. It's almost like whatever you want to call it. It's almost like a blessing and a curse. Because, I mean, you saw Islam. He was saying how I don't see my kids, right? Because he trains for, I don't know, his camp is probably 2-3 months. And then they have another guy fighting here pretty soon. And he said, we're going to fly out to Abu Dhabi or to Dubai and be there for that. So anytime somebody fights, it's almost like the whole gang goes, right? Umar fights, they all go. Islam fights, they all go, obviously. I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was a little weird that Islam says, "Oh, I don't see my kids a lot," and I was like, "Oh shit, man, that's kind of fucking deep, bro." And I just became a dad recently, and I get it. A lot of fighters make sacrifices of like, you're in camp for a few months. If you're lucky enough to make camp where you live, that's a little bit easier. But a lot of people travel for camp, so just whatever. I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I just thought it was fucking crazy that these guys are so into fighting. Their whole life revolves about fighting and training, that a lot of times they don't get to be real, humans. They don't get to be fathers. They don't get to be brothers. They're just all their whole life. I mean, I don't know how much, but you can say like, I don't know, 6 months out of the year. It's all about fighting. It's about training camps. It's about being cornerman for your teammates. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Whatever way you want to look at it, I just thought it was interesting to mention that. So, but yeah, Merab Dvalishvili proved that the Nurmagomedov name is not undefeatable. Even though it was kind of disrespectful that Merab was an underdog going into this fight, because obviously he was a champ. And obviously looking at his record, I mean, fuck, he has way better record than Umar will ever have, I think. What's next for Merab after defeating Umar Nurmagomedov? I think there's not a lot of options, but what makes sense the most is make Sean O'Malley fight Corey Sandhagen for the number one contender spot, right? Corey did lose his last one, so that's a little iffy right there. But I mean, that would be a fantastic fight. I mean, that would be amazing to watch striking wise. It's a fight that I've myself been wanting to watch for years now, O'Malley versus Sandhagen. That being said, looking at Merab versus Umar and the way that fight went out, I don't think Sean O'Malley beats any of these guys. I don't think Corey Sandhagen beats Merab either. I mean, I think Merab is there as champ to stay, bro. Okay? I don't think he's going to go away anytime soon or lose anytime soon. I think Merab and Umar are clearly the cream of the crop at that division. And I don't think Sean O'Malley defeats either of them. I don't think Sanhagen defeats either of them. Obviously, Sanhagen already fought Umar and lost. You have Peter Yan there. He could potentially do something there. He's ranked number 2, so he could, they could make a Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan rematch for the number 1 contender. So, yeah, there's a lot of fun matchups right now at that division that we'll have to wait and see how they play out. So, I'm excited for that. So, that's what's next for Marav Dvalishvili. As far as Umar, he lost, but he didn't really lost any stock. The guy's still a fucking animal. Still has an Nurmagomedov last name. I think all he has to do is kind of go back to the drawing board and, just work on some of those details, some of those mistakes. And I think Umar will be champ eventually. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see, Next up, we had a fight that I was very, very excited for. We have Jiri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill. I'm glad Jiri won, okay? I don't hate nobody, but Jamal Hill, bro, was talking so much shit after the Alex Pereira fight. And he was just coming from a place that was just a bad loser. You know what I mean? That's all it was. He was just a bad loser. So I'm glad that Jiri, in other words, beat the fuck out of him. I thought he did fantastic. Jiri Prohaska showed a lot of growth from a lot of his previous fights. He showed a lot more composure. He wasn't as wild and throwing caution to the wind. He did really good at maintaining his pace and just taking it slow. Obviously did end up getting the dub, the TKO. What round was it? Round 3, yeah. So, and then he did hurt him early in the fight, right? I think. So, the fact that he didn't just go for the kill and empty the gas tank, that shows a lot of growth, and that shows how he's just evolved as a fighter and learned from previous mistakes. And yeah, what I said last time here was that if Jiri were to win this fight, it's tough. Alex Pereira is going to defend against Ankalaev. So after that, I don't think Jiri gets the shot right away. I think he fights one more time against the winner of who's fighting here, Jan Blachowicz versus Ulberg. That's who's fighting next. So I think that would be how you set up a number 1 contender fight. Let's say Alex Pereira gets past Ankalaev. Obviously, you have Jiri, who just beat Jamal Hill, but already lost twice to Alex. So do you give him the shot right away? No, I think you make him fight the winner of Jan Blachowicz and Ulberg. And that's how you set up the next number 1 contender fight for this division. That's what makes the more sense to me. I think it's obvious that, when you have a dominant, like a champion that's so dominant like Alex Pereira, this is where you have to be. You have to prove yourself just a little more. Because, again, you already defeated this guy twice. And you already lost. Fuck. You already lost against this guy twice. Now, if the Jiri fight, let's say the 2 fights that Jiri had against Alex, let's say they were a little bit closer fights. They were kind of, they went the distance, that it was kind of crazy like that. Then, yeah, you get the trilogy right away. Or if they were like 1-1, obviously the trilogy makes the most sense. But when the guy knocks you out twice early in the fight, one in the first round. I think there were one in the first round, and the second one was at the very beginning of the second round. I think that's pretty concrete right there. So a trilogy, just not quite yet, okay? Again, fight the winner of Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg, and then we'll talk. And then that is if Alex gets past Ankalaev, because if he doesn't, he'll probably get a rematch. If Alex has been such a dominant champ, he's done so much for the UFC that if he loses against Ankalaev, he'll probably get an immediate rematch. Or at least I expect that. So, yeah. Either way, just like the bantamweight, this division is kind of opening up. There's some exciting matchups happening pretty soon. So, we will see. Next, we had Jelton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. I thought it was pretty good. In the heavyweight division, I like this fight because the heavyweight division has just been, kind of tanked for a little bit because of the whole John Jones situation. So it's nice that Delta Almeida was able to get a dub and kind of, move up the ladder. He's ranked number 6, so I mean, it kind of will make sense, especially because, I mean, if you look at the top 5, a lot of those guys either already lost or John Jones already beat or Tom Aspinall already beat. So it's, and I'm not saying he deserves a title shot next, but it's definitely nice that we're getting some people get closer and closer to that title shot that, potentially could happen after the whole John Jones, Tom Aspinall fiasco resolves itself, So excited to see what happens there. Next, we had Kevin Holland versus RDR, Rainer the Ritter. I came here last week and I said that I didn't know a lot about Rainer. But oh my God, I mean, the guy is exciting to watch. I'm happy that another contender bursts into the division. Is he ranked at the moment? I don't know. Kevin Holland was not ranked, right? No, Kevin Holland was not ranked at the moment. So, now the rankings are already updated and I don't see Rainer there. So he's not ranked yet. But after a performance like that against Kevin Holland, I do think he could hang with a lot of those ranked guys. So I'm excited for him as far as what's next. I mean, if you want to give him a ranked contender so he can, burst into the scene a little bit more, then you have people like Michelle Pereira that are there at the lower rankings. You have Shara Magomedov. That would be a fantastic fight. Both of them on the come up. That'd be great. You have Paulo Costa, who hasn't fought in a little bit, and he's was a guy that was at the top for a while, and now he's ranked number 11. So yeah, I think Rainer is a real contender at this division, and I think he could definitely hang with a lot of these guys, and eventually make his way to the top. Now, as far as Kevin Holland, bro, I mean, this guy, I don't know what it is with him. His record at this point is absolute trash. He's lost 5 fights out of his last 5, I think, or 6. Let me see here. Let me double check because this record is unfortunately atrocious. And it hurts me to say it because, I mean, Kevin Holland is a great guy. He has a big name. He's a big following. But he has lost his last 2 and then won against Oleksiejczuk. And then lost against MVP, lost against JDM, won against Michael Chiesa, won against Ponzinibbio, and then lost against Thompson. So out of his last 5, he's lost 4. So that's not good. That is not a good record to have. I don't know what it is with him. I just think that he just cannot get dialed in. I don't know. I don't have another way to put it. He just cannot get dialed in. Plus, he just has no wrestling at all. Homie gets taken down at will, submitted at will. Homie has absolutely no wrestling. So, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy. He's a good striker. And I don't know. I was kind of talking to my friends during the fight, and I was like, I think it's just a matter of fight IQ. I don't think he has a lot of fight IQ. And rather, he also gets into arguments the week of the fight with Rampage at his podcast. And he's saying, I don't give a fuck about my fight on Saturday. I'll fight you right now. Homie, dial it in, bro. Get dialed fucking in. Unfortunately, I think he's been on a downhill ever since. And I don't think he's coming back. I don't think we're ever going to see Kevin Holland in a top 5, top 3 situation ever again, which sucks to say because, again, huge name, popular guy, has had some great fights, some great wins, but just never managed to burst to the top, and now he's just going downhill. So, sucks for him. Again, just dial it in, homie. Dial it in, win a fight, win 2 fights in a row, get back in the winning column, and, potentially you'll get another opportunity, but I don't think that's going to happen, bro. I do not think that's going to happen, so sucks. We had a few other fun fights. The Peyton Talbot fight versus Barcelos. Unfortunately, Peyton lost that fight. I thought he was going to win. Shout out to Barcelos for getting the dub. I thought it was a close fight, but, Barcelos got the dub by decision, so shout out. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty much a lot of the fun fights that we had. The girls' fight was pretty good, though. Carol Rosa versus Eileen Perez. That was a fun fight. And yeah, when did I? Oh yeah, I tuned in for whenever I started watching was for Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sopage. That was also a pretty good fight. Went the full decision. All the prelims were straight decisions, bro, which is kind of fucking crazy. All the early prelims, straight decisions. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira, decision. And then the first finish of the night was Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Adekana. Was a submission, round 2. And yeah, and then some of the finishes started happening from there. So overall, it was a good fucking card. And one last thing I want to talk about is how we got a few announcements. We have Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. That's going to be a fantastic fight. I cannot wait for that fight. Is it for a number one contender spot? I doubt it. Maybe. Who knows? I think it could be. There's nobody really around for that division anymore. Like I said, Chandler's out the picture. Poirier's out the picture. Maybe Arman's still there. We'll see. Charles is probably next. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's going to be good for either of those guys to get a finish, and then potentially, if they get a impressive finish, then they could, make some noise and be considered next for a title shot. We'll see. And then the next fight we got announced was obviously Alex Pereira, the king right now, I think, of the UFC, versus Ankalaev. So that's going to be really fun. That's going to be great to see what's next and that whole fiasco for, even including like John Jones, some of those people, Tom Aspinall, and then obviously Jiri Prohaska. It's nice to get some clarification on what's next. So now we know. Yeah, that should be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. As always, I'll be here to break down the next fights that happen, which is, I think it's Israel Adesanya, no? I think Izzy, it's next. Let me see here. Events. Come on, website. Why is this so fucking slow, dude? Jesus Christ. Yeah, UFC Saudi Arabia, February 1st, Israel Adesanya versus Imavov, Nasruddin Imavov. That should be a fantastic fight. Number 2 versus number 5. In the card we have Shara Bullet versus MVP. That's a fantastic fucking fight. Sergey Pavlovich versus Rozinho Rosenstruck. That's a fantastic fight, bro. Said Nurmagomedov. Fantastic fight. Ikram Aliskerov versus Andrei Munich. Fantastic fight. Wow. That card is fucking stacked, bro. And it's only a fight night. Jesus. I'm excited for that. Holy shit. I'll be here to break it down. You already know. As always, thank you guys for watching and have a great rest of your day. Peace.